All right, welcome back to the channel. So Jermel Charlo responds to Erickson Lubin saying that Jermel Charlo don't want no smoke with him. Let's talk about what Jermel Charlo had to say about Erickson Lubin, and we will also talk about the 154-pound division in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers and non-subscribers. Thank you guys so much for the support that you've given to the channel during this time, where everything is cut off. Also, if you are not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button so you can check out when we drop these videos. Also, special thank you to everybody that supports in the live stream through the Cash Apps and the super chats. Also, thank you everybody that joins as a channel member and everybody that is a part of the Patreon and what we do over there on the Patreon channel. You guys really help the channel out immensely, and I am truly appreciated for you guys. Let's get into the subject matter of the video, which is my man Jermel Charlo. Little background on Jermel Charlo. He is the WBC super welterweight or junior middleweight, whatever you want to say, 154-pound champion. I think that he is one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in boxing, despite what ESPN and Ring Magazine have to say. And I believe wholeheartedly that the only reason that he's not on there is because the quota, the brown skin quota for their pound-for-pound list had already been met. So in order for Jermel to get the credit that Jermel deserves, either Terrence Crawford is going to have to lose or Errol Spence Jr. is going to have to lose and come off that list before they put him up on there. That's the way that I see it, because there's no other way that you can explain to me how Gennady Golovkin, who hasn't fought any better competition and has a loss, has a loss and a draw on his record, looked like he lost to Sergey Deverenchenko. How in the heck he's on there, but Jermel Charlo's not on there? How can Monster Inoue be on there, but Gervonta Davis isn't on there? And how is Juan Carlos Estrada on there, but Gary Russell Jr. is not on there? Anyway, I can't help. Anytime I talk for pound, it irritates me, because there's a lot of guys that should be on that list based on what they've done for year after year after year, but yet never get on the list from those guys. We're going to give them that respect over here on this channel. Jermel Charlo is a great fighter. Now, Erickson Lubin is somebody who is an up-and-coming 154-pounder, and I think could very well be the future of the 154-pound division and the best guy at 154 pounds. Now, he does have a mark on his record, and that is an ass whooping at the hands of Jermel Charlo. Now, Jermel Charlo and Jermel Charlo had a way of doing a certain something to 154-pounders, which is knock out guys on their way up. Jermel Charlo did it to J-Rock, and Jermel Charlo did it to Erickson Lubin. Now, the difference between J-Rock and Erickson Lubin's situation, I believe, is in the situation is a little more redeemable at this point for Erickson Lubin, is that Erickson Lubin was young and he didn't have no business in the ring at 18-0. At 18-0 with Jermel Charlo, who was already a seasoned vet at that time. He got caught by a shot that was perfectly set up by Jermel Charlo and went down, but he's still fighting in the 154-pound division. He did me a great favor by whooping Ishii Smith in his last fight. Thank you very much. It wasn't that big a deal to me at the time when he knocked out Ishii Smith, or he beat up Ishii Smith, excuse me. I don't know if it was a knockout or not, but I know he beat him up. But before that was before I knew that Ishii Smith was some like ragged troll running around talking crazy. But anyway, that is Erickson Lubin. Now, Erickson Lubin what he said about Jermel Charlo was that, hey man, I am no longer that young inexperienced fighter that Jermel Charlo beat. That I am now ready to take over the 154-pound division. Jermel Charlo sees that, and that's why Jermel Charlo doesn't want to fight me. He says that Jermel Charlo is buying his time. Jermel Charlo responds to that and says, I think something that is fairly reasonable. He says that, hey, he knows that that there's a lot of guys at 154 pounds that Erickson Lubin will knock out. And Erickson Lubin is a top-notch quality fighter, but Erickson Lubin needs to leave. He said, but he needs to leave me alone because he's not trying. Jermel Charlo says he's not trying to go backwards. He's not trying to go backwards and fight Tony Harrison again. He's not trying to go backwards and fight Erickson Lubin again. He's trying to fight Jason Rosario and Teixeira so that he can prove that he's the best guy at 154 pounds. That's a very, very reasonable statement to make and a viewpoint to have is that, hey, man, he wants to fight these champions. So if Erickson Lubin, so that, leads to the question, what can Erickson Lubin do about that? Now, the layout at 154 pounds is actually pretty interesting because he is, I do believe, the WBC. I think he's the WBC. And actually, in the middle of this video, I'm going to pull this up. WBC rankings, because I don't want to be wrong about this. I believe that Erickson Lubin, last time I checked, was the number one ranked guy by the WBC. And I think for the WBA, that he is the number 4, but I'm just going to go real quick to look at it. But if that's the case, in which I do believe that he is, then, man, where is this? Then he's in the position that he is. He's the WBC number one contender underneath Jermel Charlo. He just needs to be put in a situation to become Jermel Charlo's mandatory. And he more than likely will get that fight. Jermel Charlo, the other people that are ranked high in the top 4, because it's usually in the top 4 or 5 that get it is Jarrett Hurd, Julian Williams, Tony Harrison, Sergio Garcia, and Erickson Lubin at number 1. So I don't think that J-Rock is trying to make that fight right now. I don't think that Jarrett Hurd is trying to make that fight right now. Tony Harrison is, but Tony Harrison just fought him, so he's not going to be the mandatory. Also, I don't know when the last time that the WBC champion is supposed to fight in a mandatory every year. So the mandatory fight should get ordered for Jermel Charlo pretty soon. And it seems like Erickson Lubin is right in position to be that. So there very well may not be a need for Erickson Lubin to do a lot of searching out of Jermel Charlo or calling out of Jermel Charlo. He very well might get that shot just because he's going to be the guy's mandatory. And I wouldn't mind seeing that fight at all. Now, I don't know really if anything is going to change. Except for maybe Erickson Lubin doesn't get knocked out right away. But I think that Jermel Charlo really is just the class of 154 pounds. And I don't know if anybody there at those top guys are going to beat him. Everybody else has pretty much gotten thumped by somebody in that weight class, except for Jermel Charlo. Jermel Charlo has a loss. He has a loss to Tony Harrison. But, that was a decision that could have went either way. He got that when he went back, fought Tony Harrison again. He wound up stopping Tony Harrison and ending all of that noise. So for me, the way that the two fight went between him and Tony Harrison, even though he lost one, the fact that he knocked him out emphatically in the second fight to me tells me that and also that Tony Harrison had lost to Jarrett Hurd. I think he got knocked out by Jarrett Hurd. That Jermel Charlo Jermel's the better fighter than Tony Harrison. And I think he's the top 154. But the other way that Erickson Lubin can go about it is Erickson Lubin can try to get a shot at the WBA championship, which is Jason Rosario. Because right now he's number 4 in the WBA behind Jarrett Hurd and Julian Williams, and something that is bananas. He's behind Israel Madrimov. Israel Madrimov. And this guy's record, Israel Madrimov's record, being the number 2 ranked guy in the WBA, for the underneath Jason Rosario, the champion, his record is 4-0. 4-0. 4-0. 4-0. And the WBA already has him ranked as the number 2 ranked guy in the WBA. Now, I have seen Mad Marab fight because when I saw it, I went and made sure I watched his fight. He's a guy that fights off of DAZN, and he's definitely a good fighter from what I can see, but he's like a poor man's Terrence Crawford. He's like a Russian. He's like, I think he's from Uzbekistan. He's like a Uzbekistani Terrence Crawford. Dude switches from orthodox. He switches from orthodox to southpaw. He uses the same type of hand movement. Dude just been watching too much Terrence Crawford, man. But he looks like he's a good fighter. So anyway, that is another route. A route that could be taken by Erickson Lubin to get the fight. And I think that he should do it. He probably won't have to bark too much about it. I have a suspicion that the WBC is going to order him as the mandatory though. Because I don't see any of the other guys there getting pushed to the mandatory position for Jermel Charlo and making it happen. J-Rock, like I said, J-Rock just came off of getting knocked out by Jason Rosario. So he's got to get his head ready. He's not going to go right into that. Also, Jarrett Hurd never seemed like he wanted to fight. Never wanted to fight Jermel Charlo when he had the 2 belts. So, I don't know if he's going to want to go that route. And so therefore he's the number 1 guy in the WBC, so he should get it. But anyway, I certainly hope to see it. I love the 154-pound division because the 154-pound division is the division where you have the highest likelihood of having these top-notch guys fight one another, more so than the welterweight division, more so than the lightweight division, definitely more so than the heavyweight division and some of the other more stacked divisions in boxing. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.